Hey everybody, I was requested to make a video that showed how to use the cue stick and the cue ball and how to line up shots, and so that's what I'm here to do. Not necessarily line up shots, but how to actually use your cue stick and the cue ball. So we're just in practice mode here. And the first thing, I'm going to get real close here so I can show this. Hopefully it picks up. Can you see? Let me go to the side actually, so that dot's not in the way. There's a blue spot with your bridge hand. You point your cue stick at the cue ball. And once you see the spot where you want to hit the cue ball with the cue, you depress your trigger on your bridge hand. So you see my, here I'll press the grip and my trigger finger, and that makes a fist. Just my trigger finger is this. So once you have the spot on the cue ball that you want to hit, you press the trigger and hold it. Now, even if I were to move this hand, the cue isn't moving anywhere, but I wouldn't recommend doing that. Your back hand then controls the momentum of the cue. So because the dot gets bigger, you're drawing your cue stick further away from it. The closer the stick is to your cue ball, the closer it is to impact. So in this case, let go of the trigger, don't hit the ball with your cue, and you won't accidentally hit the ball when you don't intend to. Okay, so that's how you line up your shot on your cue ball. So you see the cue, see the dot on the ball where you want to hit it. If you wanted to use, lower English, you do it there, and that's what that is. And as long as you release it before you make a stroke with your backhand, because your backhand won't move the cue until you have the trigger depressed. So I'm gonna do a break here. The farther back, this is the trick with the break, and why it's easier to do standing up, because usually when you're playing, your hands are going to be kind of, right under your chin, on your chest, so you don't have that much room to move your cue stick back. So to break, I kind of like, you might have seen sometimes I move the cue ball to the side. You might want to give yourself a little extra room to move your backhand further back when you want to make your break. So here it's gonna scratch because this is dead on center. Oh, well, I tapped it. Line up your shot. You don't have to use your grip hand or anything with the backhand. It's just your controller. I use grips on my controllers, so I don't often have a grip, but if you don't use a grip, you might be inclined to hold the trigger or the grip button on the side. That also, I never use this feature and I forgot about it. You can move to the cue ball and help designate where you want to sit with your angle on the cue ball. I never use this grip function with this. But okay, so let's get to it. I'm going to point at the cue ball. Try not to be so close that I am tapping the cue ball. If that had been a game, it would have been a fault. So I'm going to be a little bit farther back than you would think you would be. You bring the cue ball, you bring your backhand, just bring it as far as you can get it, and then push forward quickly, like that. Except you have to be a little bit quick with it, because I think the game will time out. So back and forward, and that gives you good momentum to give you a good break. When the cue ball is translucent, that's when you move it with ball in hand, and you move it by using the thumbstick on your bridge hand controller. I don't know if you're left-handed or right-handed, so that's why I'm trying to use those terminologies. If you're right-handed, it'll be on your left hand. You'll use the thumbstick to move the cue ball, and you hold the grip button to rotate yourself. And then if you move the thumbstick and the grip together, you both move. This is actually how I set up how I can get close enough to the YouTube player in order to see the keyboard when I set that up. Okay, so I'm not super concerned about what I hit here, just trying to get a shot. Okay, and so then instead of moving the thumbstick, you press down on it, and that makes the cue ball solid. So there again, now you can be lined up straight because if you're sitting, because you don't have to worry about hitting so hard as you are on a break. So line up your shot. There's your, let's use bottom English here and give some draw if I'm at the right angle. Okay, and then you saw my forefinger go down. That means my trigger is held, and I'm going to pull back and push forward. And the faster you push it forward, the harder it's going to hit the ball. You can either push it lightly and get a tap, and your ball may or may not make it to the pocket, or you can give it a little bit of, forward momentum to try to get this pop for a draw, like that. Okay. So here, if I just want to barely tap the ball, like if you're trying to go for that corner pocket, I was always taught to use a little bit of top English with that. I don't know if I have the right angle, but I'm going to go slow and just barely tap it. Okay, and here I don't want to plow into this. It's going to be an illegal shot, but maybe not. Maybe I didn't hit that 10. And then English as normal. So once you get used to doing these slow, like playing a trombone kind of movement, once you get that down, you should be able to control your cue ball pretty well with some practice. And as far as how hard you want to hit, if you really whack it hard enough, I should line up a shot here. I'll talk about that for a second. If you want to, once all the balls stop moving, in order to make it ball in hand while you're in practice, you press down on the left joystick, and now you have ball in hand. Well, let's get one that would obviously bounce out. So let's say we go after this 5, and you just really swing for the fences on it. Oh, it didn't pop out. I'm surprised. But you saw the force on the cue ball because it jumped. So you're best off trying to learn what momentum, what kind of stroke you need in order to get the effect that you want. A lot of people in actual pool have trouble learning touch shots. They just kind of plow into them and just hope something falls in. And I'll admit I've done it, especially when I don't have a clear shot, and it's just like, well, maybe I'll get something in. And in that case, it was a scratch. But that's really all there is to it. And the rest is learning English and the power of your shot. So I would say that breaks are the hardest thing to overcome. So let's set up a break again. Yeah, we'll set up 9-ball this time. And I'll go to the side, because it just naturally gives me more room. 9-ball, you don't have to have quite as much momentum on the break. There you go. And once again, with the 8-ball, you can do it from the middle. You just have to be much faster with putting your hands together, and I tend to hit my controllers together. So, see, that break wasn't quite as strong, but it didn't scratch. Ideally, you'd like to have something go in, right? So this is breaking. Learning to break is probably a good way to learn how to get cue control and how powerful your shots need to be and that kind of thing. But it's, yeah. See, I just don't like breaking from the center. I just don't get enough forward momentum because of the angle. I guess I could try to angle myself a little bit so that I can draw my backhand back farther. That was way back past my shoulder, and it didn't seem to make much of a difference there. If this ever happens to you, it's because the cue ball was already in hand when you decided to restart. So if ever you lose your cue ball and you don't have it present on the table, try tapping your ball in hand, left thumbstick, and see if that helps out. Now, when I'm standing, I'm able to get more of a full swing. But in that case, you kind of have to keep an eye on your backhand, like I keep looking back at it. Keep an eye on it because you need the tracking to remember where it is. So we're gonna lock the cue right into the corner pocket. That was a bad break, but also I'm from the center and trying to show more momentum than I am. Oh, let's make that solid and rack them up again. Let's move it a little. But here again, I'll use I'm sitting in a chair with arms too, and that doesn't help. Okay, so I've got my hand back here where I would in actually a pool hall. Oh, that was a terrible break, but I am here. I'll try it this way. So I'm back here. Put my ball of light here on the cue stick. Keep an eye on my backhand because it really does have to be done within a few seconds. Oh, I tapped it while I was trying to adjust. Maybe it's because I'm at the angle I'm at. See, way back here and forward if I can keep a lock on the cue ball. It just takes a little bit more finesse to be able to use your backhand, but I do find, let's move back the table. These are a challenge for me naturally. Let's raise the table a little. I find that if I do a more natural shot, then I get a better follow through if I use my hand farther back as opposed to trying to make a short shot. I'm less choppy, if that makes any sense. Let's see, is there anything else? Oh, yes. If you're playing, I've got a table in front of me. If you can hear that. So if I were to, here my hand is on the table. So if I lower the table to where my hand looks naturally on the felt, it mimics being on a pool table, which is why I use a bar stool, because it's approximately 2.5 feet tall. You need 29 to 31 inches for a regulation size height table. That may vary by half an inch. But if you can do that, then you can keep your cue hand steady and you're not trying to hold it in the air before you lock it. And it does make it more natural. So if you have access to a countertop or a bar stool, and obviously if you're on a rail, it's going to be a little different too. So I guess that's it. I hope this answered your question. I really appreciate you asking it. It's now I'm using my knee to rest my hand on to keep it steady. Yeah. Obviously breaks when you use center of the cue ball and you stay in the center of the table and you have enough force for the cue ball to get to the corner pocket. That's where it's going to go. So a good break, and you may already know this, would be either a little off center and not the center of the cue ball necessarily. Here I'm going to try to add a little bit of stopping power to it so it doesn't travel to the pocket. And one of these days I'll get better at making balls on the break. And that's it. Thanks for watching. And let me know if you need any further information on that I can provide, if there's something I didn't cover that you needed me to. I appreciate you asking the question. Have a good one. Bye-bye.